Are we live? We're live? Is everything good? Everything is good? We're live? All right. Well, hello, everybody. Good morning, and welcome back to the second ever edition of Real Graps. I'm your host, Joe Gierer. And this week won't be as eventful as last week because last week we were coming off the Royal Rumble, which is obviously one of the biggest events of the wrestling year. And, I could sit there and talk about a Royal Rumble all day, especially the last one that we had. But we're past that now. We're officially a week or so into the road to WrestleMania. And as of last night, we had our very first match set up, which we kind of assumed was going to be set up, but now it's officially set up. So we're officially off and running. And I want to center this show mainly. I'm going to start with main roster shows from last week because I want to save NXT to the very end and give it a shine at the very end because it's a big week for them. So without further ado, let's hop right into it. We're going to start at SmackDown last week, the very first SmackDown we'll be covering this semester. It opened up with your typical segment. Jey Uso came out, got the crowd rowdy, got his second encore for his entrance, which I said last week I had never seen anybody even get one, and he got two. And as of last night, he got three. So the popularity, it doesn't seem, is ever going to fade anytime soon with Jey Uso. But Jey Uso came out and cut his typical promo, called out Cody Rhodes. They gave each other a hug. It was a nice embrace. And Cody warned him that if he chooses him at WrestleMania, which you kind of assumed he wasn't going to, but Cody had warned him if he chooses him at WrestleMania, they'll have fun that night. That would be it. They're officially on the road, and Cody said that he'll do whatever he needs to retain that championship. So, pretty typical opening segment, especially after a Royal Rumble, a face winner and a face champion. So nothing special there. But then Jacob Fatu came out with Tama Tonga by his side and cut a mini, maybe 45 second promo and told Jay that if anybody was going to bring back that championship to the bloodline, to the family, it wasn't going to be him. And then there was a brawl that started. But I was pretty pleasantly pleased with the fact they did that because I feel like everybody has been clamoring for Jacob Fatu to finally get in that main event scene and possibly go after even a mid-card championship. I feel like the work he's put in has warranted that. He's been doing great work every week, especially since he's hopped on the mic. We knew coming in that he could cut a great promo, and now he's finally gotten the chance to showcase that. So I'm really looking forward to what they do with Jacob Fatu, man, because he's a hell of a talent. And if last week was any indicator, he could possibly be seeing himself in some sort of title picture at some point soon. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how they book Jacob Fatu going forward. We had our second qualifier for the Women's Elimination Chamber, second and third on that night. The first of which was Bianca Belair versus Piper Niven, which I don't think anybody had any doubt in their minds that Bianca was going to win. Solid match, but Bianca ended up getting into the chamber, and as we'll see a little later, I believe that she is probably going to win it. I think she's the favorite, and I was an Io Sky guy. Thought Io Sky would find her way in. We'll talk about that when we get to Monday Night Raw last night. But I thought that Io Sky would be the one to get into the chamber and win and face Rhea Ripley at WrestleMania. But as things turn out, I don't think that's the direction that Triple H is going. I don't know what Io Sky's going to end up doing at WrestleMania, but I digress. Let's keep moving forward with SmackDown. I'm about to go off on a rant about Raw when we have to talk about Raw a little later in the show. Pretty Deadly versus DIY was a funny one. DIY came out street clothes. They wanted to host some sort of moment of silence for the Motor City Machine Guns after they beat them the previous week. And Pretty Deadly interrupted. And they were talking about how, oh, we've helped you keep those championships. We've helped you keep those tag team championships. Nick Aldis came out and gave them a match and said if they win, they get a tag title shot, and funny enough, they won. They ended up rolling up, I believe it was Tommaso Ciampa that got rolled up, and, you know, pretty deadly versus DIY for the tag championship soon here. There was a mini little backstage promo with The Miz, and he got turned down by Andrade, I believe, once again. But then he had a little conversation with Cody, and he was trying to warn Cody about Jey Uso and what these friendships can become, I believe, if the belt is around and what can happen. So he was trying to get Cody on edge, maybe make Cody join him, uh, which Cody's turning heel. I don't believe he's going to be joining The Miz. Pretty safe assumption, I believe. Um, but then they had Shinsuke Nakamura lurking again in the background on him. He was lurking on Jimmy, I believe, last week or the week before. And then they had Shinsuke in the background lurking on Cody Rhodes at the end of that promo, which I just want to go out on the record and say that ever since Survivor Series, when Shinsuke dethroned LA Knight for the United States Championship, they have done a horrendous job booking him. And I was excited because heel Shinsuke Nakamura, the way they were presenting him when he came back and attacked LA Knight those few times, first of all, I didn't think he was going to win that match. Then when he did, I was kind of excited because I was in that crowd that had said Shinsuke Nakamura deserves some push. He deserves a title, mid-card title, world title. When he was feuding with Seth Rollins and first turned heel back in 2023, I was of the opinion that he was going to win one of those matches, especially the last man standing, and get that World Heavyweight Championship, which I thought he deserved. And I was excited for the run that he could possibly have with it. But, ever since he won the United States Championship, it's just been disappointing. They barely utilize him on TV. Sometimes he's just completely in catering. The last few weeks, he's just been lurking in the background of some people. Jimmy Uso possibly makes sense. You could see Jimmy getting a mid-card push. But why is he lurking in the background on Cody Rhodes? He has no business lurking in the background on Cody Rhodes. They ran a mini feud between the two over a year ago now. And you're the mid-card champion. He's the world champion. You have the United States Championship. Focus on your own belt. I'm really disappointed the way they've booked him. And it makes me wonder why they even took the belt off LA Knight in the first place, because you figured he'd get a main event push since they took the mid-card title off him. But he hasn't, which doesn't make much sense. He was just stuck in this loop with the bloodline for a little bit. No championships involved. Hasn't gone for Cody Rhodes. Hasn't even gotten his rematch with Shinsuke Nakamura, I believe, for that belt. And LA Knight was active. He's out there every week in the ring, whether he's causing chaos, cutting a promo, having a match, defending. I don't know, man. They got to get that belt off Shinsuke if they're not going to book him, because the United States Championship is one of the staples of Friday Night SmackDown for the last few years. And I mean, you can't put the belt on a guy who's not going to be on TV. So get that belt off of Shinsuke Nakamura. Speaking of Big Jim, as I mentioned before, there was a triple threat qualifier for the men's elimination chamber. First two to qualify in that were John Cena and CM Punk. And this triple threat was between Drew McIntyre, Big Jim, Jimmy Uso, and LA Knight. As I just mentioned, two of them previously. Drew McIntyre won, and the best part, it was a solid match, but the best part, I believe, is the promo segment in the beginning when Drew came out and he said, "I'm a changed man, had to get away from Raw. Raw's toxic." Typical, Drew McIntyre stuff. It's not going to be long before he snaps on SmackDown as well. You know how that's going to play out. But then we had Jimmy Uso come out and interrupt him, and Jimmy cut a funny promo. And I just want to say, I do believe Jimmy deserves the United States Championship, as I mentioned him possibly getting a match for it before. I don't know whether that's at WrestleMania or after or before. But I believe that Jimmy deserves it. Jimmy has great promo work. He has funny promo work. That promo he cut on Drew was really good on Friday. I thought it was great. And his work in ring has been significantly better since he returned from injury. He had to have been in the lab or something, because Jimmy Uso looked great. So Big Jim came out, cut a promo back and forth with Drew. Drew called him Jay, said he had to say yeet first, which I believe he actually did. So It's kind of funny little jabs at one another. And then LA Knight came out at the end and cut his classic promo. Gave a good message about men's mental health awareness, and giving them a shoulder to cry on, let it out if you need it. Nice message by LA Knight, but of course it was, I wouldn't say in jest, but it was to set up a joke he was going to make about Drew McIntyre. And I liked how they incorporate real life issues into these promos because there was the report that Drew McIntyre was cursing backstage and ran out of the building before the Rumble was even over because of a superstar having to get their moves in during his elimination spot. And everybody pretty safely assumed it was LA Knight. So LA Knight said, "Oh, I forgot to get my stuff in" before he ended that promo, which I do like the way that they incorporate that kind of thing into the storylines. And Drew McIntyre, I know he's slated, I think, for a program with Damian Priest at WrestleMania, but at this point, if they ran LA Knight versus Drew McIntyre at Mania one on one, I'm pretty interested to see how that build would go, and I think it would be a good match. So, um, Triple H, if you watch, pivot LA Knight versus Drew McIntyre. And like I said, Drew ended up winning that match. You kind of figured he would, so that makes it CM Punk, John Cena, and Drew McIntyre in a stacked elimination chamber. They showed a segment with Priest and Braun backstage right after, and they foreshadowed this week's Elimination Chamber qualifier, which is a big, big meaty match on Friday Night SmackDown. It's going to be Damian Priest versus Jacob Fatu versus Braun Strowman. All the big boys of the Friday night show are going head to head to see who gets a spot in the Elimination Chamber. Me personally, I would like to see Jacob Fatu in there. I feel like a lot of other people would. Damian, I wouldn't mind, but I feel like Jacob Fatu in that chamber gives him a lot more of a push that people are hoping he gets in order to mix it up with that kind of talent. So I'm riding with Jacob Fatu in that one. Kevin Owens on Twitter last week put out a phenomenal promo in his car, as he usually does, about Sami Zayn, about last week's package pile driver ending to Monday Night Raw. Kevin Owens is phenomenal, man. Whether it's as face in the ring or as a heel, his character work, his ring work, it's lovely, man. I love Kevin Owens. That promo was awesome. Talking about how, Sami Zayn, you stood there, you did nothing for me during my match. In his delusional mind, he felt like Sami should have helped him against Cody Rhodes, but he was saying, "Oh, Sami, you did nothing to help me." But then in the Royal Rumble, when Roman Reigns was in the corner and he was in trouble, you went and helped him. But for me, you did nothing. And then he told him the most ironic statements you could possibly hear. Kevin Owens called Sami Zayn a terrible friend and a horrible human being, and he promised that he'll never forgive him, but he'll make him pay. WrestleMania match. Who knows when Sami Zayn is going to come back, but you can guarantee it's before WrestleMania, and they're running Kevin Owens versus Sami Zayn at WrestleMania. I say make it a no disqualification match. Let's do it because they've ran that one-on-one before. Make it a no disqualification match. Y'all ever seen that old Twitter compilation highlight video of one of their old matches? Kevin Steen versus El Generico? All the tables, the spot, bring that back. Let them do it at WrestleMania. It would possibly be match of the event. Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, that's going to be a great build. It always is. You can run that feud every few years, every time at WrestleMania time, and I don't think anybody's ever going to get tired of it. That's how good those two are. Carmelo Hayes finally got a win. He beat Akira Tozawa after costing him his Royal Rumble spot, according to Nick Aldis, his chance to main event WrestleMania, which I think we can all safely agree if Akira Tozawa was in the Royal Rumble, he would have most definitely won it. Definitely won it. I'm obviously joking. He wouldn't have won. But it's a nice way to get Carmelo Hayes a win. As I said last week, I don't think that WWE is misusing Carmelo Hayes. Some people were complaining about his usage based on the usage of Braun Breaker and the usage of Tiffany Stratton and the success that they've seen as single stars since coming up. Melo, like I think we talked about last week, hadn't gotten a win in a while. And you know, he needed a win, and Akira Tozawa was a good way to get him a win. But I don't believe that WWE is misusing Carmelo Hayes in any way because of his persona. He's the cocky youngster. He believed he can come up, run through the division with no issues, claim all the belts, win money in the bank, all this kind of thing. And he's still maintaining that persona, but you have to build his character. You can't just let him come up and mow people down. And I feel like it's more of a physical thing as well because Braun Breaker is this physical force and he's just huge and he looks like somebody that can just run through the entire roster, which is why I believe he got the push that he did. And Carmelo Hayes is more of a smaller guy. He's in great shape. Obviously, he's a buff dude, but I just think that he's smaller and you know what I mean? Like he's just I don't think it was for him to come up and just mow through the roster right away. And as I said last week, I love Carmelo Hayes. I love the work he does. Character work, promo work, in-ring work is phenomenal. Whether it be Mellow in the Bank, a mid-card title at WrestleMania, world title later in the year. I'm not exactly sure, but I do believe that 2025 is the year of Carmelo Hayes. I believe he's going to do something big this year. And it was nice seeing him get back in the win column, even if it was Akira Tozawa. They had that funny R Truth segment backstage, but the main highlight of that segment was again Cody talking to Jay, and Jay saying, "I'm undecided." He wasn't sure what he was going to do. You could see that Cody was a bit stressed out. Um, but nonetheless, they kept moving. They had a tag team match in the main event later that night. Women's segment. They had Charlotte come out as she said she would, trying to feel inspired. And Tiffany Stratton came out. You got that first face to face and promo between the two for that potential dream match at WrestleMania, which I believe is the direction they're going to move. But Nia Jax came out, which I was happy about because ever since she lost that belt, you kind of assumed or wondered when they were actually going to run the proper one-on-one match between Tiffany Stratton and Nia Jax. And they announced that it's going to happen this coming week on Friday Night SmackDown, likely in the main event, obviously. Charlotte said she'll be there. She'll be watching, see who's champion when it's time for her to make her pick. And yeah, but Tiffany Stratton did great work that promo, I believe. Both of them did. Tiffany Stratton saying, "Everybody always compares me to you. They say I'm the next Charlotte Flair, but I just want to be Tiffany Stratton. So pick me so I can beat you at WrestleMania." Simple message, but good message to go off of. And Charlotte Flair said that Tiffany Stratton sounds like she's begging the queen to make her a star, which I thought is good heel work because obviously, as much as you want Tiffany to be that brat heel, she gets cheers. Everyone loves her. Um, so in this feud leading up to WrestleMania, it's pretty obvious that Charlotte's going to run the heel role, and promo work like that is why that she's so good and why she can actually successfully do that. And then we close the show with Jay and Cody versus Jacob and Tamatanga. And I almost forgot to mention the Street Profits video package was phenomenal. And like I said last week, I wouldn't mind putting the tag titles back on Motor City. I would love them to put the tag titles on Street Profits, and DIY are doing great work with the tag titles as well. So I don't know if it'll be a ladder match or whatnot, but we'll say triple threat tag title match at WrestleMania. I mentioned last week, Motor City versus Street Profits versus DIY. Sign me up. Sign me up. That's a great match. Phenomenal match. But the Street Profits did a great work in their video promo. And last year when they came out as heel with Bobby Lashley, nobody really wanted to boo him. They loved him too much. I think this time around they'll catch boos if they keep going the way they're going. And yeah, man, they're building some nice feuds for WrestleMania. A lot of people are complaining, but I think they're doing a good job so far. Jay and Cody beat Jacob and Tamatanga in a good match. Tama took the pin. They kept Jacob looking strong. But then at the end, they had Solo come out and return, and he spiked Cody right before the show went off air, which I feel like is a weird ending because Solo just lost the Ulafala to Roman Reigns less than a month ago, or a little over a month ago now. And you haven't really seen him since. He hasn't said a word. So to instantly have him come back and spike Cody, we're going into WrestleMania season. We ran Cody versus Solo back at the Elimination Chamber. My mind's all over the place right now. We ran Cody versus Solo back at SummerSlam last year. And that was mostly because of the Roman Reigns return being imminent. You knew it was going to happen. That's why they ran that match. And even so, after they ran that match one more time and Roman came out after. Solo has no claim right now to a WWE championship match. Jacob has more of a claim than him. He's been doing more work. So why run this, especially close to WrestleMania, if they're going to run that match again? I have no idea. Doesn't make any sense to me. And all I know is if they're going to do it, they better run it before or at Elimination Chamber if they want Cody defending, because we need to get Solo out of the WWE Championship picture going into WrestleMania. We have to get Cody away from the bloodline going into WrestleMania. That seems like a never-ending feud. They have to cut it off. They have to cut it off at some point, unless it's with Jacob, because you want new faces in that title picture with Cody. But he's been in this never-ending loop of the bloodline for years on years now. So I don't get why they're running that. But if they wanted Solo to just come out, lay him out, come out next week and say that he's coming for everyone, and that was just a general statement, not for the WWE Championship, I can accept it. And that wraps up Friday Night SmackDown from last week. It was an okay show. It was a fine show. Now moving on to Raw of last night. That was a great show. Came out, Jey Uso started off the show yet again, got his third straight encore for his entrance, which I hadn't seen one before. I hadn't seen back-to-back before, and I definitely haven't seen 3 times in a row before. I feel like that's going to start becoming a thing. Crowd's kind of latched onto it. But he got attacked by Gunther while he was doing it on the announce table. Gunther beat the hell out of him. And then they finally made the first WrestleMania match official. Jey Uso versus Gunther, World Heavyweight Championship. Jey will probably win that match. We assume Jey will win that match. Or like I said last week, it was a waste of a Royal Rumble. But I'm kind of interested to see how they're going to build this feud. I wonder if they're going to build it as Jey as this underdog like they kind of did with Sami Zayn last year. If Gunther's just coming out every week and beating the hell out of him on Raw. Because Gunther did say, if you pick me, the next 10 weeks are going to be hell. And it's exactly what happened. They got into a brawl before he picked them. And they continued the brawl after he picked them. So Jey Uso versus Gunther, World Heavyweight Championship, WrestleMania 41 in Vegas is officially set. And that gets the ball rolling. Everything is in motion now. So we'll see where that plays out. Io saw Rhea Ripley backstage, and she told her she's coming for her because she cost her the spot in the Elimination Chamber and therefore WrestleMania, which I was a little upset about, and I feel like most people were. I wasn't worried when Liv beat Io last week to go to the Elimination Chamber. I thought the way they did it was brilliant because it kept both women looking strong. Neither one of them had to take a pin. And I thought that ending would result in Io Sky getting a redemption match. Like, oh, Io, you lost unjustly. We're going to give you one more chance. She wins, gets in the chamber. Whether or not she wins it, we'll see. But I thought she was most definitely ending up in the chamber, and it was a way of getting Liv in and getting Io in like a clever way. But as of last night, they're not doing that. They're not getting Io Sky in the chamber, which doesn't really make sense to me, considering she's widely considered to be one of, if not the single best women's wrestler on the roster. I love watching her in ring, especially last night. That tag match was great. We'll get there. But Io Sky not being in the chamber just seems wrong. It seems like a waste. Both chambers could have been extremely stacked, and they're both shaping up to be. But Io Sky not being in the Elimination Chamber just doesn't make sense to me. And I quite frankly have no idea what route they're going with her into WrestleMania. But I guess we'll have to see. Like I previously mentioned, Damage Control fought the Judgment Day, Liv and Raquel versus Io and Dakota. Nice return for Dakota Kai. That was arguably match of the night. It was great. They gave them time to cook, and they cooked. And Io got the pin on Liv, which was nice. Good little redemption from last week. Liv took a nasty cut. And it feels like this is like the 4th time over the last month that Liv has taken some sort of nasty bump or cut during a match and kept fighting on. She's significantly improved in the ring. and just overall ever since, I started watching again. But that was arguably match of the night. It was a great match, and, Damage Control got the win, which will set up what we talk about a little bit later, going into not the Elimination Chamber, but the Raw after the Elimination Chamber, which I have issue with. Um, Bailey ended up defeating Lyra Valkyria in another good match to advance herself into the Elimination Chamber. I believe that now put Liv Morgan, Bianca Belair, Alexa Bliss, and Bailey into the Elimination Chamber, which Lyra would have been a nice addition as well. But considering she's a mid card champion, I don't believe she should be in it, even though a mid card champion like Logan Paul was in it last year, which people still had issue with because he should have been defending the belt. But star studded again, Elimination Chamber for both men's and women, shaping up very nicely. The winner of that, I assume, will face Rhea Ripley at the WrestleMania, and the winner of the men's is officially facing Cody Rhodes. So, leading into it very nicely, everything there is shaping up nicely. Penta had a promo package that he cut on Ludwig Kaiser and Pete Dunne after he beat them both, and then Pete Dunne came out last week. Ludwig attacked him from behind, and they had a little promo after where they claimed they weren't helping each other and never would. I don't really know what's going on there. It's going to be a little three-way feud, I guess. Pete Dunne said he's facing Penta again next week. Sign me up. That's going to be a great match again. They can probably run that match several times, and it'll be great every single time. But they're going to continue a little three-way feud there. As for their WrestleMania plans, I don't really know, but I'm not here for the speculation. We're just going to sit back, ride, and see how it goes. Lyra versus Ivy Nile got teased again backstage in a segment with the Alpha Academy and American Made. They've teased that match for about a month now, and Lyra's yet to defend. So I feel like they should book it. I'm surprised they haven't booked it yet. I don't know if they want to run that match on a PLE, like Elimination Chamber, or if they want to run it on a Monday Night Raw. But whether they're going to do it one way or the other, they got to book that match. It's been brewing ever since she won the belt, and it's been like a month almost. It's been about a month since she won the belt. And ever since she won it, they've teased that match. I don't think it's a match that needs much teasing. I think it's a match you can run one or two promos for and run the match. So they got to run that match. And I think it'll be a good match. Lyra's going to retain, but I think it's going to be a good match. AJ Styles finally came back. Like I said, highlight of the Men's Rumble last week for me was AJ Styles coming back and returning from injury, because I love AJ Styles. Great theme song. They brought it back, which was nice. His old presentation. And officially, I could say last night he came back as a face, which I believe they brought him back as a face in SmackDown in September, whenever it was. But AJ Styles came back, cut a nice promo. He said that he thought it was it. He was done, but he has gas left in the tank. Typical old-timer promo. And AJ Styles most definitely has it left in the tank, and we've seen that last year. Put on some phenomenal matches with Cody Rhodes in Scotland and in France. So AJ Styles back as a face. They had Dirty Dominic Mysterio come out and interrupt him, and he got the normal heat. Cut as good of a promo as he can with the crowd booing his ass off. But they're going to run that match next week. Good first match back for AJ Styles. I feel like they did it with Randy Orton as well. Anytime these old timers return or a Hall of Famer, they give them right to Dominic Mysterio, which I feel is good. Obviously, you figure Dominic will lose the match because he's this supposed to be weak, scrawny heel, but he draws heat. And the fact that he's trusted to work with a guy like Randy Orton off injury and now work with a guy like AJ Styles off injury is a big testament to his ability. And it should be a good match. Nice return for AJ Styles. Seth Rollins had that interview segment with Jackie Redmond in the crowd. He shot on Elimination Chamber per usual, said he was going to advance, win, and handle unfinished business with Cody Rhodes. Finn Balor came out, told him that he's broken and that it's Finn's time to handle the chamber. Typical interview there. Fine segment, build for their match, but it feels wrong because I don't feel like anybody feels Finn Balor is going to beat Seth Rollins, but I'm all for a Finn Balor push. So after this match, they got to figure out something to do with Finn Balor because he deserves something. He deserves something. They set up the AJ Styles versus Dominic match right after that. And then they had that face-off segment between AJ Styles and Braun Breaker. And I know a lot of people have speculated whether or not it might be Logan Paul versus AJ Styles at WrestleMania. But AJ Styles versus Braun Breaker for the Intercontinental Championship, in my opinion, is probably the match, the way they're teasing it. And I can only imagine what kind of match that's going to be. That would be a hell of a match. So many matches on this WrestleMania card that are rumored could be classics. And I feel like that could be one of the classics. It would most definitely be a good way to put Braun Breaker over if he can beat someone like AJ Styles. He's already beaten Hall of Famers. He beat Sheamus multiple times in this Intercontinental Championship feuds and defenses. So I feel like AJ Styles would be a real nice name to tick off your resume, and it would be a hell of a match. So Braun Breaker, AJ Styles at WrestleMania, or just in general at some point, run it up, run that match. There was a weird War Raiders and American Made match, Creed brothers, Eric and Ivar, they fought for the tag team titles. And don't get me wrong, I've been wanting a Creed brother push. I've wanted them to win the tag team titles because they're a phenomenal tag team. And that match last night was great. But right as Eric and Ivar went for the War Machine, they had Julius come in and hit Ivar with the title and get them disqualified. And Michael Cole was saying something about making a statement, but I feel like that could have been done if they lost. Like, they're heels. I know they're going to try and do something stupid during the match, and they're going to potentially try and cheat with the belt. But to do it in plain day and get yourself disqualified, I don't get why that was booked. I guess to make them both look strong and continue the feud. But I would have been okay with the Creeds taking a pin and then jumping Eric and Ivar and holding up the titles like they did. I feel like that would have been a good way to continue the feud. But in order to make a statement and get yourself disqualified from a title match, I didn't really agree with the decision of what's going to happen there. I love that they're continuing the feud. It was a good match last night. If they run it at Elimination Chamber or on a future Raw, I feel like that's also going to be a really good match again. But the way they went about it was just weird. I didn't agree with it. Judgment Day had that backstage segment, and it seems like they're drifting even further apart every time they interact with one another in the clubhouse. Finn Balor came back in, was pissed off again, as always. When is he not pissed off? And he was shooting on everybody there. Dominic came up, defended Liv. He said that Liv and Raquel are getting a push. You have your match. Liv is in the chamber. Everything is looking up. And Finn Balor just called it excuses. They had usual heat. Liv defended Dom. It seems like they're teasing a breakup at some point, one way or another. And Dominic suggested getting but Dominic suggested getting another member, which I thought was interesting ever since the exit of JD McDonough with injury on that nasty bump he took a few weeks back against the War Raiders for the tag titles. But Finn shot it down, but I feel like, in teasing that, they're going to add somebody. I have no idea who that's going to be, but I'm pretty interested to see because the Judgment Day could use some work right now. They could definitely use a bigger name or another addition. So I'm curious to see which way that way goes. This is what I was alluding to earlier. Rhea Ripley and Io Sky ran into each other once again as Damage Control was leaving the building. And Rhea said, "I'm not giving you a match because I owe it to you. It's because I want to." And they set up Io Sky versus Rhea Ripley. Good. Great match. Phenomenal match. One of the best matches in the women's division you can make right now. Was rumored to be the WrestleMania match. But it's fine. We'll get it at the Elimination Chamber. Wrong. They're using it on the Monday Night Raw after the Elimination Chamber. Why? Why is Rhea Ripley versus Io Sky a Monday Night Raw match? That's a WrestleMania caliber match. And it's nice. We're getting it on free TV. But that's not a feud you want to run on Monday Night Raw. Why would you run that on Monday Night Raw? It doesn't make any sense. Rhea Ripley is the most popular women's wrestler in the company right now. She gets the loudest pops, loudest reactions. She's a star. Io Sky is the best women's wrestler in the company right now, one of the best wrestlers overall. Why would you not run that match at a PLE, like Elimination Chamber at the least, or even WrestleMania? That would have been a great WrestleMania match. But I assume with that, Io Sky is not getting in the chamber. I don't know what her path is to WrestleMania. We'll just have to sit back and see. Although I feel like she deserved being in a title match. I feel like most people felt that way. But she won't be in a title match at WrestleMania, a world title match at least. We'll have to sit back, see what happens. But the fact that Rhea Ripley versus Io Sky is being ran on a random Monday Night Raw just doesn't sit right. I feel like it's stupid. I don't know. I don't like that choice. I'm not one to criticize too many booking decisions. I don't know if you guys get the different reaction based on what I'm saying. I don't really know how it's coming off. If I feel very critical of WWE or not. But yeah, I mean, I'm kind of one to just go with the flow, see what happens. But I didn't like that choice. I don't like that choice. CM Punk came out, cut a promo about Elimination Chamber. Usual CM Punk work. It was a good promo. He was interrupted by Logan Paul, and Logan Paul shot on the Royal Rumble and the fact that CM Punk told Owens, "You lost to Logan Paul." And then Logan said, 24 hours later, I'm throwing you over the top rope, head over heels. So good heel work by Logan. And I want to go back on what I said last week. Um, Not go back on, but reiterate. Logan Paul does great heel work in the wrestling business. He fits really well into his role of being the bad guy. Um, Say what you want about him personally. A lot of people have not been fans of him. I personally wasn't a fan of him years back, but his work in the WWE has been great. And that's not only promo work, that's match work as well. As we can allude to later in the night, just after that promo, he had a match with Rey Mysterio to go to the Elimination Chamber. Arguably match of the night. It was fantastic. They did a great job. Logan was pulling out some stuff that you would say, how the hell is a YouTuber or celebrity doing this stuff in a wrestling ring? Moonsaults, buckshot lariat clothesline that he does. Everything, man. He's really good. I get the criticism on him personally. If you don't like him personally, that's fine. In terms of his work in wrestling, you can say he gets too much for not being there as much. That's fine. But his work, his body of work in general, has been very good. And Rey Mysterio is timeless, man. There's a reason why he's considered one of the best of all time, especially the best luchador of all time. And you saw it last night. Rey's been getting match after match these last few weeks, and he's putting on banger after banger. Rey Mysterio can still go at 50 years old. It's incredible that a guy like that can keep doing it for such a long time, especially being a smaller guy like he is. But yeah, Rey Mysterio is timeless. Him and Logan have some great in-ring chemistry. They've put on good matches before. And yeah, Logan Paul wins. Clean, might I add. They had Logan get a clean win over Rey Mysterio. Punches ticket to the chamber. Men's chamber currently sits at John Cena, CM Punk, and Logan Paul. So as I said multiple times before now, star-studded women's chamber, star-studded men's chamber. Everything's shaping up real nicely. And then at the end of the show, Rey Mysterio got jumped by the New Day, but it was only on screen for like 5 seconds, and then they cut it. So I'm not really sure what happened after. I didn't see anything on social media if that led to anything, but it seems like they're going to continue this New Day versus Rey Mysterio feud. We'll see where that lands. Purposely, I left NXT for last today. I wanted to leave NXT for last because they have their big show coming up on Saturday night at 6 o'clock, NXT Vengeance Day. And I feel like whether it's NXT or whether it's the main roster, if one of them has a show coming up, as I said last week, we're going to do predictions on the matches, whatever is announced. I'll give you my thoughts. Do I think it'll be a good match? Do I think it'll be a bad match? Is it a good booking choice? Is it a bad booking choice? And who's going to win? So this week is NXT's shine. They still have another show left tonight before we reach Vengeance Day. So bear in mind that maybe another match gets booked tonight that hasn't already been booked for the show, and perhaps something that I say could be taken in a different context after the show happens. I'm not exactly sure, but we have NXT to run tonight on the CW and then Vengeance Day on Saturday. Now, last week's edition of NXT was an interesting one. I enjoyed the show. They started off with Stephanie Vaquer versus JC Jane, Fatal Influence, and Jasmine Nix had a failed interference in that match, and Stephanie ended up winning. So that was more of a build towards the North American title match on Saturday at Vengeance Day between her and Fallon Henley. There was some backstage beats with the Metaphor and then Shotzi, Gigi Dolan, and Tatum Paxley's group, along with Sol and Zarya. It was mainly all started by Zarya. She was being a bit of a bitch, I would say, excuse my language, but she was being a bit of a, you know, to Lash Legend in terms of her performance at the Royal Rumble and their previous tag team title main event. So that set up a match later in the night between Sol and Zarya and Gigi Dolan and Tatum Paxley. Then the big one that was a bit weird was Lexis King came out to cut a promo from the previous week's victory over Charlie Dempsey for the Heritage Cup. He retained it, and he had cheated, which he's been going on this thing about, I'm not my father, I don't cheat. And then he blatantly cheated, and he said, you guys couldn't be that stupid. I am my father. Why would I not be my father? I cheat to win. So he was calling everybody fools, and he was talking about how he's going to hold on to the Heritage Cup. And he was just getting to how he's going to change the rules and the format of how it works. And then out of nowhere, Fandango came back, who I haven't seen in over 10 years now, since I was watching wrestling. I haven't heard that name in a while. I haven't heard that music in a while. I haven't seen Fandango in a minute. And I know he goes by JDC in TNA right now. But he came out. It was a great return. The crowd loved it. They were still doing the dance. The music got an instant reaction and pop. Yeah, I did not expect that whatsoever. And then they set up a Heritage Cup Championship match between JDC, Fandango, and Lexis King for next week's NXT, which is tonight's NXT. So they're running that match later. Curious to see what happens there. I assume Lexis will retain, but who knows at this point with the TNA and NXT partnership? Who knows what's going to happen with that match? But I was happy to see Fandango back. I still remember when he wrestled Jericho at WrestleMania when I was a kid. So nice blast from the past there. Ridge Holland had a match against Stax, and he beat him. Izzy Dame tried to interfere again and help the family, Tony D's group, and help Stax win the match. It was failed. And you had Sean Spears and company again watching, which who really knows where that story is going to go. But yeah, Ridge Holland got the win over Stax. And then Fraxium had a backstage segment with Josh Briggs and Yoshi, who've been clamoring for a tag match for the titles for weeks now. And they told them kind of that they didn't deserve it yet and that they have to earn their way up. So they told them, you know, get a match and earn your way to the tag title shot. So then Yoshi and Briggs split and they went to look for a match. Sol and Zarya ended up defeating Tatum, Paxley, and Gigi Dolan in that tag match that they set up earlier in the night. And then Trick Williams came on screen and had a nice interview backstage shot on Obafemi as they had that upcoming tag match later in the night. And he also shot on Grayson Waller and Austin Theory, A-Town Down Under, who they were facing. And he was not happy that they got that match at Vengeance Day against Obafemi for the NXT Championship because he felt it was his and he felt he deserved it. So pretty angry Trick Williams per usual these last few weeks. But they had that glitch screen that they started showing last week on the TV in the background again. That said Vengeance Day 215. And then they showed it again at the end of the show. But this time it showed a group of 4 people. And as I explained last week, I'm not an avid wrestler watcher outside of WWE, even though I love wrestling and WWE itself. So I'm not going to begin to speculate on who that could be, where they're coming from. I don't think anyone really knows. I haven't seen any reports of who people think that is, but I guess we'll have to wait and find out for Saturday night. But I have no idea. I'm curious though, because they're hyping it up. So I'm curious to see what comes of that. We had an awesome women's segment later in the night between Roxanne Perez, Bailey, Charlotte Flair, and Julia. The segment kicked off with just Bailey and Roxanne. And before Julia could come out, Roxanne hopped in, did typical heel work that she's been doing, talking about, of course, her records that she always mentions for the last year now. She mentioned her Royal Rumble record, staying in as long as she did, an hour, 7 minutes, and 47 seconds. New record. She said that I beat you, Bailey. Bailey said, but you didn't even win the match. I won the match. Typical back and forth. They had a good segment. And Roxanne said that she's going to win back her title, go to Monday Night Raw, win that title, go to Friday Night SmackDown, win all the titles, per usual, that she's going to win. But it was a good segment. And then Julia came in, interrupted both of them, said, you guys must forget, I'm going to beat both of you on Saturday and retain my belt. And then they had Charlotte Flair come out at the end, as she said she would, to explore all her options, including Julia, because she's picked the only other time she won the Royal Rumble, she did pick Rhea Ripley as NXT champ. So they had her come out and cut a promo on Julia. All three women in the ring, to be honest. But she gave Julia big props. She said she wishes she could come in there and shake her hand. Basically giving Julia a nice little uplift, a nice push to cement herself as good as she is. And then Charlotte said, you're at the top of the best women's division. So it gave that women's division that push from a credible source like Charlotte Flair. But of course, she came in and said, I'm better. And if it's you that I choose, I'm walking out as champion. So good segment all around there to lead into this upcoming Vengeance Day triple threat match. And then Cora Jade hopped out at the end and attacked Bailey. She attacked Julia, laid them both out. And after the stuff that Roxanne has been saying about her the last few weeks and kind of undermining her, she swung on Roxanne too. So that friendship is over again. And I don't know how much longer Roxanne's going to remain down on NXT, but I'm sure they're going to try and run a one-on-one between Cora and Roxanne at some point soon, if she remains down there longer than she currently is. You know what I mean? If she stays down there till like WrestleMania weekend, stand and deliver, maybe they'll run that match around stand and deliver. But we'll just have to wait and see, per usual. I've said that a lot today, and I'm sorry if you thought I've said it too much, but a lot of these things we'll just have to wait and see how it plays out. They booked Javon Evans versus Ethan Page unofficially for Vengeance Day this Saturday, barring a medical clearance. And usually when they do that, it means that medical clearance will happen. I'm sure they'll announce that later tonight. So we're going to operate under the assumption that Javon Evans will face Ethan Page to, later this week at Vengeance Day. Kelani Jordan had a match with Carmen Petrovic, which she came out victorious in. And again, another weird decision at the end of it. Because of Jada Parker, Kelani snapped and kind of attacked Carmen excessively after the match ended. And then the ref overturned his decision and ruled Carmen Petrovic as the winner, which they want to disgruntle Kelani Jordan. I feel like there's other ways to go about it, but I've never seen before a match won by someone and then because of an after-match attack, it was overruled. There's countless examples in wrestling history every week where somebody loses a match or wins a match and then attacks the person they beat after the match. I've never seen a decision overturned in my life. I didn't even know that was a thing, but they overturned it, so it disgruntled Kelani Jordan more. They're going to build to a Kelani Jordan versus Jada Parker match at some point. Who knows when it's going to be, but that match is 100% going to happen. Josh Briggs and Yoshi ended up finding opponents. One found the NQCC and the other found Hank and Tank. So they brought it to Ava, and she ended up booking a triple threat tag match for tonight on NXT. And if they should win, Fraxium agreed that they would warrant a tag title match. So that match is later tonight. And then you had that main event where A-Town Down Under defeated Trick and Oba, because Trick and Oba were never operating on the same page. It was never likely they were ever going to, but they never operated on the same page. And then Eddie Thorpe came in with a leather strap at the end. Leather strap. I said that a little wrong, but they came in with a leather strap at the end and attacked Trick from behind and cost him the match. He ended up getting pinned by Grayson Waller. So Good build for A-Town Down Under going into their Vengeance Day triple threat against Obafemi. They also kind of teased Austin Theory turning on Grayson Waller, which I wonder if that's going to actually happen. But as expected, A-Town Down Under took out Trick and Oba because of a miscommunication per usual. And I already alluded to it before, but they ended with that graphic of Vengeance Day, um, that like glitchy screen, and then they showed the 4 people. Again, not speculating on that. We're just gonna have to see who it is because I have no idea. Um, as for that upcoming Vengeance Day PLE on Saturday, I believe there's 4 matches booked so far. Um, we have 2 triple threats for the NXT championships, both men's and women's. We have North American women's title match between Stephanie Vaquer and Fallon Henley. And we have Javon Evans versus Ethan Page, which isn't officially booked, but I'm going to operate under the assumption that it is officially booked because it will likely be confirmed tonight. Starting with the least important of the matches, Javon and Ethan. The way they've been building it up, Javon got his jaw broken, can barely speak, comes back. I don't think it would do any good for him to come back, get this match with Ethan Page and not win. So I'm gonna assume that Javon ends up getting the better of Ethan. I don't know how that'll be on Saturday, but my official prediction, I believe Javon Evans going to defeat Ethan Page in their one-on-one match on Saturday at Vengeance Day. For the women's North American title match, it's kind of a hard call. For me, it's the hardest call because Stephanie Vaquer is an incredible wrestler and they want to bring her in and give her this big push that she deserves. This is her first title match with WWE and the NXT brand, going for the North American title against Fallon Henley. And I kind of want to say that she'll win it because you have to assume that she's going to win, being who she is. But I don't know because they had Julia come in and she was supposed to be the world beater. And then she lost her first match, ended up fighting back, getting redemption and winning the belt. But that was the NXT Women's Championship, the main championship. This is the North American Championship, mid-card title. And Fallon Henley, in my opinion, has done a good job with it. So I'm going to go out and say that Stephanie Vaquer wins and takes the North American Championship from Fallon Henley. But I wouldn't be surprised if maybe some outside interference causes Fallon to beat her. You know what? I'm going back on that. Fallon Henley's going to beat Stephanie Vaquer and retain the championship. They're going to have Stephanie Vaquer face some adversity before she can claim her first piece of gold with WWE. So my official prediction on that, probably by some outside interference, but I believe Fallon Henley is going to retain her championship against Stephanie Vaquer on Saturday. As for the 2 NXT Championship triple threats, the women's match, you'll have Roxanne versus Julia versus Bailey, which without a doubt, probably match of the show. It'll be an incredible one, but I don't think there's any doubt in anybody's mind that Julia is going to retain. It's her first defense. So yeah, Julia is going to retain against Bailey and Roxanne. They'll probably use that to build up more of the Bailey versus Roxanne feud that it seems like they're pushing for. And Cora Jade might get involved after this past week. Who knows? But Julia is going to retain in that one. And then as for the men's, Obafemi will retain. Who knows what Trick is going to do on that night if he shows up, if he doesn't. But Obafemi, maybe Eddie Thorpe shows up. Who knows? That never-ending circle. But Obafemi is going to beat Grayson Waller and Austin Theory. Yeah, he's going to beat Austin Theory and Grayson Waller. And that's going to be a great match too because Austin Theory is very good in ring. Grayson Waller is very good in ring. They both have the ability to put on great matches. And obviously, we've seen what Obafemi can do. He's probably the brightest, in my opinion, rising star off NXT right now. That's going to be a great match as well. They have some really good matches set for Saturday's PLE. And yeah, Obafemi retains, Julia retains, Fallon retains, and Javon beats Ethan Page. Will there be a 5th match? I don't know. They kind of teased Ridge Holland versus Tony D'Angelo in a cage earlier on NXT last week. I don't know if they're going to book that tonight for Saturday or if they're going to book it for a later date. But should that match happen, Tony D'Angelo retains, in my opinion. That's all I have for this week. I hope everybody has a wonderful day, has a wonderful week. And I'm not exactly sure if I'll be here next week or not. But if I am, I'll see you next week. If not, I'll see you when I see you. Yeet.